But for indirect material, it's a problem. You cannot use PD because you don't have a forecast for safety helmets, right? You can put the forecast, but generally we don't put that much of effort that to do a S&OP for these materials. It would not be possible. It would not be possible to do S&OP for these materials. Can anyone tell me why it is not possible to do S&OP for the indirect materials? Large in quantity and using regularly based, not in the quantity, large in, yeah, you can say quantity, large in number. The number of these indirect materials would be very high. There can be, if you have 100 materials created in your system, SAP system, there can be 90 materials which can be the indirect. So this number is very high, because the plant maintenance, the different kind of ball bearings, different kind of jigs, different kind of fixtures. There are so many different office supplies will also come here. And there's so many varieties are there for these materials. Even the variety is that high. Many times we take a call, we don't create material number for each individual thing which comes in the indirect. A4 paper, A3 paper, A2 paper, kitane material code you will create, right? So many times even we don't create the material codes also. Many times the indirect materials we don't create as a stock material. So we have a indirect material also. There are the two type of materials: stock materials and non-stock materials. A lot of office supplies we have. Let's say uh, pen, markers, staplers, right? For that, we don't maintain the stock. Those are non-stock materials. So out of indirect also, any material for which the material code is not created, which is procured based on the text in the purchase order, or which is procured based on the material group. It is not necessary that you should have a material code to buy a material. You can do a text-based bind. You can also do a buying based on the purchasing group. So where the material code itself is not there, or where the material is there, but it's a non-stock material. Non-stock material means the inventory views will not be maintained. If if the stock itself you are not maintaining, as soon as you will buy the material, as soon as you do the GR, it will auto consume. It will charge to the cost center. There would be a session will happen for the procurement team for the indirect material procurements. Kunal will take you more detail that how the procurement will happen for indirect materials, where the non-stock materials are there, or some cases the material itself is not there. If it is a non-stock material, or if it is the material code itself is not there, the planning does not come into picture at all. Make a note. This is the questions I have asked in the interviews, and I ask it in a tricky way, right? Not a straight way. And many questions you will be coming as a scenario based question, right? So the question which generally we ask it that we have a lot of things like we have a A3 papers, A4 papers, we have a pen, board markers. How can we do planning of these kind of materials? How can we make sure that we have a adequate stock maintained for these kind of materials? And people start proposing the different planning types or strategy types, right? So that's where you need to think about from a consultant point of view, ki bhaiya, these materials we are talking about, first we need to check whether the material code would be created or not. Many of these materials can be bought without material code, so we cannot do planning for them. And in most kind of cases, if you will create a material code for them, it would be a non-stock material. The material type would be non-stock. So if it is a non-stock material, which as soon as we buy, it will get consumed, we cannot do any planning for this. And it is not recommended to do planning for these small items. We need to always focus on our major items, which is impacting our complete supply chain directly. If you don't have a red board marker, your supply chain operations will not stop. But if you are producing a car and you don't have a wheels, your supply chain operations stop, your sales stop, your production stops, right? So you need to understand what is important for supply chain. These materials would not be that important from supply chain. So if the decision has been taken, the material codes are not created, or it's a non-stock materials, planning will not happen. We cannot plan for them. If you want to do it, it need to be done outside the system. Okay, and if somebody asks what would be your suggestion, what kind of planning you will suggest for these kind of materials, we always say that we suggest not to plan, or whatever you want to do it manually. Somebody would be creating a manual purchase requisition to let you know that how much material you need to procure it. Now we come into the discussion कि भैया, okay, that was a quick interview question which can be asked on the planning of indirect materials.